Hello and welcome back to my channel, and thank you for joining me on this will be the first episode of my solo classic traveller role-playing series. I'm very pleased to have reached this stage. The solo Advanced Dungeons and Dragons first edition campaign has been proving to be a very enjoyable experience. I think I'm now up to video 64 in that. It would be classified as quite a mature thing, even though we haven't really proceeded too far time-wise, but we've covered a lot of ground. I've gone through all my potential mechanics. I followed my 9 steps to a campaign. And basically we're up and running now. So this is what I want to do with the Traveller role-playing game. Traveller, I've got quite a long history of Traveller. It's one of my favourite role-playing games. I've played it probably almost since it was invented back in 1977. I think I must have started about 78, 79 playing this game. So it's one of my personal favourites. I've got a very long history playing the classic version, not really any of the newer versions. I went and bought this book, which is basically the 1981 hardback version. This has been reissued, and this really takes into account all the changes that were done to the original 1977 version. I've been through it with a fine-tooth comb. I am quite happy with any changes that have been made. They are very minimal. It's basically almost the same as the 1977 version, without any of the either typos or mistakes. There was quite a lot of errata produced in the original version. So luckily that's all incorporated. It also has some nice features when it comes to, like, well, for a start, it's got some art that appears in the book as you go through, which is quite nice. It's not absolutely necessary because I think one of the things about the first, the classic design was just a very simple kind of look, which I think really just summed up the game. It was just very functional. It had that kind of aesthetic. But for example, if we go to, I think it was like combat. Let's have a look at combat. Yes, they have all the tables on just double page spreads, which is great. So you've got all the information. It might seem a bit busy actually at times, but so this is what I'm going to use. I do have these are the original books I have, and these are the 1977 versions. But as you see, they're just a wee bit on the weary side. My spine's coming away there, and I thought, they're lovely antique things, but maybe their time has passed, and they a bit like my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Player's Handbook and Monster Manual. They can let maybe a younger, fresher generation carry on with the baton, and pathfind a new lease of life, a new solo generation that can play classic Traveller. So I've got the book 1, book 2, and book 3. All of these are incorporated into this, with a few, as I say, enhancements, I would say, probably more than amendments. Very little change from the originals. And I'll also be incorporating aspects of Citizens of the Imperium, which I think is a fantastic supplement. It provides a lot of very interesting additional careers that we can use in the game. But I will be limited to what I am going to do exactly on that. And then we might, if we expand the campaign out, I'm quite happy to dip into Mercenary and High Guard. Mercenary on maybe the more the abstract mass battles side, and High Guard if we ever get to large space conflict. I will be dipping into either of these occasionally, because I'm going to use a couple of the skills that appear in the Citizen supplement. Things like survival and zero-G gravity, which weren't part of the original books. These are detailed in these books, and I thought they should be, when we come to actually see some of my enhancements, you'll see that I've got some mechanics there that add in those skills into the basic professions like Army, Marine, and Scout. So that's all the books that I want to go through just now. And also, just on the kind of like the overall aesthetic and vibe for this game. I want to do it very similar to what I did for my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons channel, and it's gone very much back to imagine you're going back to 1977, the late 1970s. We're not going to use any kind of digital enhancements. It's all going to be very, very this is my sci-fi look. This is an old board game, which was around about that time. So this is what I'm using for my sci-fi look. So that's as good as it gets on this channel. There's not going to be, I think I've said on a few times on my solo Advanced Dungeons and Dragons side, that I'm not really into all the kind of flashy, showy stuff. And you're not going to get very much. And I think that actually fits in with the overall aesthetic of Traveller, which is low-key, functional, utilitarian, quite egalitarian, democratic, just like the Imperium, which isn't. And I'll come to the Imperium later, because I think that's an important thing to think about. The challenge that I think that I have in this series is to create something special, unique, and entertaining from this old set of rules. And I think by playing solitaire in the way that I've been approaching my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game, I think I think I have a good chance of providing something that I enjoy, and hopefully if you come along for the ride, you're going to enjoy that too. I want to generate a setting, characters, and adventures which are unique. They have my style on it. I'll be utilizing my own solo framework and mechanics. Again, it's going to be light touch. It's not going to be this is a whole new system that we have to learn. It's going to complement the original rules. I am going to go through this process in some of the following videos in a bit more detail, to kind of lay the kind of ground rules for the campaign, things like character creation, the world generation, the starting world, what you do in the first starport, that type of thing. And I have little a bit similar to what I had for the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons side. I have my kind of 8, in this case I've got 8 steps to the campaign, whereas I think I had 9 in the AD&D one. I've got a similar kind of format where I go through these steps in a logical, measured way, and hopefully that generates quite a rich kind of set of characters, background, and some kind of spin-off adventures that we can start to play with. Now, I have to admit, this really the inspiration for this definitely came from the Joy of Wargaming channel. I had been thinking about doing a solo traveler campaign, but he really set the benchmark on it. So all credit to him, and he did a fantastic job in almost like just creating out of nothing this sector, this subsector, which was very entertaining, and he had lots of very interesting adventures, and he had different characters, and it all just came from basically this book and the rules in it. And there are solo mechanisms here already, because I think in when I was showing you the first this book first, it does have originally in the 1977 version. It does have it does actually mention specifically solitaire, the solitaire game. One player undertakes some journey or adventures alone. He handles the effects of the rules himself. Solitaire is ideal for the player who is alone due to situation or geography. Now, I'm going to take this a step further, and I'm going to have a campaign, which is solitaire, and I'm going to have a party of adventurers, and I'm going to play it the same way that I've done for my AD&D one, which I have a feeling that it's almost like a collaborative kind of adventure that I'm doing with you, the audience. We're doing it together, and that's the sort of the kind of feel that I was getting on the AD&D side and continue to. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the same kind of feel for the traveler side. Okay. I also want, it is a kind of a this is a bit different from the AD&D campaign, is that I do have another ulterior motive. My good friends that I played Traveller with back in the old days, and also back in the 90s when we had our gaming group then, we want to start another game, another campaign up using this version, the up-to-date Mongoose one. So I want to try and get myself back up to speed with Traveller, hopefully generate some information and maybe characters and ideas from this this thing. It's a kind of it's hopefully going to help with how I referee a face-to-face game. I haven't played one of them for ages, and I'm really looking forward to it. But this is a kind of almost like a kind of testing ground to get some ideas up and running, and to seed my face-to-face campaign. So I do have a quick. This is a quick summary of just some of my ground rules for what I think will be my solo campaign, and I'll just quickly go through these points here, just almost to give you a kind of idea of what my overall ethos is, and kind of like what my it sounds a bit grand, like what my mission statement is when it comes to Traveller campaign. I want to run a solo campaign using only the Traveller rules, booklets 1 to 3, and the Citizens Supplement. And I've got restricted because I do have a few restrictions on the Citizens Supplement. For example, I won't be employing nobles as one of the character options. I think that maybe that's just a bit too it's a bit too open to it's a difficult one to solo, is to have someone that has got access to incredible wealth right from the start, and I'd rather have nobility in this as NPCs, people we interact with. The style and ethos, as if using out of the box with no previous knowledge of the Third Imperium setting, so it will be a universe that evolves with play. Now I think this is very important because the Third Imperium setting is brilliant, and it's fantastic, and it's probably one of the most established and entrenched settings in role-playing history. But I don't want to use it. I want to have my own setting, but I still want to have a kind of Imperium type kind of overarching power in the game, but not one which is directly modelled on the Third Imperium. So I'll come to that when we actually go through some of the campaign development steps. But just putting it out there, I don't want to use the Third Imperium as the setting. So this won't be like in the Swinwood Marches, which is a great setting, and we had a lot of fun in Regina sector and all that type of stuff. But it's not going to be the case for this campaign. I want to try to keep the modifications to a minimum and use the rules to interpret where possible. So that's kind of like my overall aim. Deploy solo aids and random tables where there are gaps and to assist solo play. So I do have a few of them that I've developed during the course of my play testing for my own campaign. In game situations that require resolution, or if there is a decision point reached, ask questions, consider alternatives, and formulate some options to select randomly. Now, I've been quite successful in my my AD&D campaign. Whenever I have to have like options and different types of motivations of NPCs and encounters, I've got this thing called the Rule of Four, where I just create quickly 4 options and just select randomly one of them. And it seems to work so far that I almost can have, whenever I come to like a kind of fork in the road, and I need a kind of a resolution. I know you can use things like an oracle. I've seen them on YouTube. There were people using oracles, and you get the yes or no. I quite like my little option thing. It's not a great overhead, and again, one of the things about my campaign, the pace I go, it doesn't really matter if it takes a while to draw them out. And it also helps with other things, with ideas. I've got 3 other options that I've already considered, and I'm thinking, well, I can use them and put them in my little notebook for later on as ideas. And then finally, use the judgment to rule on any inconsistent or illogical results and outcomes that arise. So that's the kind of catch-all, common sense override. What I thought might be useful before we actually proceed into the campaign itself is for me to just give you some background review of just kind of my interest in science fiction, and really just what my inspirations are going to be, and how I want my campaign to kind of reflect that. So the history is that I started playing Traveller back about 1978, 79. One of the first things we did actually play, I think it must have been, it's difficult to remember, but it must have been in parallel. I had another group of friends, and one of the chaps he was very articulate. He was quite a the bon vivant. He was into he's like poetry and all that type of, he was like a bit of a narrator, and he took on the role. We just played this a few times, of kind of like the narrator of it was a bit like Murder on the Orient Express, but on a space liner, and we were individual characters, guests, passengers on that space liner. And you would go into like the lobby, and there would be people that would be effectively NPCs. So you'd have like the rich heiress, the aristocrat, the playboy. All these type of archetypes. One of them maybe a secret agent, that type of thing. And the closest thing I can see to that now being displayed on the internet is this Brownstein type of thing, where you take on different roles, and and you're supposed to act out your roles in almost like a kind of role-playing situation where you have different aims and motivations. And we had that kind of thing. We almost had, find out who committed the murder, or is there a conspiracy going on aboard? Is there a hijacker? How are you going to foil the hijacker? We had all sorts of different little scenarios. It really was quite extraordinary that we were doing this independently. But we weren't using any rule mechanics. It was just all up in our head. So that was one of the things that I was being exposed to. At the same time, we had our own formal traveller campaign, which became really quite mature, and it went on for a good couple of years, I would say, where we really went through all the different supplements. We had all the different adventures that we played. Excuse me. But then what we did was a bit like my relationship with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We kind of graduated to the Fantasy Games Unlimited game Space Opera, which was quite complex to say the least. It had a lot of complexity. Player characters took a while to make. We enjoyed it because we liked that kind of thing. Things like the world side was really quite intense. This is like some of the charts and tables. It gives you an idea, but not to be messed with this type of game. But for young impressionable minds, this was perfect. We loved it, and we played a lot of space opera too. And at the same time, because I was an absolute avid war gamer, this was our skirmish game of choice. We loved playing Space Marines. We'd convert all our little airfix figures into, we saw the pictures at the back. We had Azerite Imperium. So I think we had German paratroopers that we painted like that, or we tried to. It was all good fun stuff. We had the Terran. I had the Mercantile League. I had all these guys. I think I used British paratroopers, and I painted them a kind of like a light blue color, with a little stripe down, a little red stripe down the side. It was all great fun, and we had lots of nice little skirmishes, and it was almost like semi-role playing because you almost like put a bit of personality into the characters, and that was a big input into my sci-fi type of experience. And obviously the influences of the 1970s and the 1980s science fiction. So like the authors that I was into at the time, and there was things like Heinlein, Starship Troopers, the Asimov Foundation series, Frank Herbert's Dune, which I loved. I loved the Dune. I read all the books. Arthur C. Clarke, his 2001 series, and then with popular culture, you went into the realms of. I'll just get my DVDs out. In the UK, we had Doctor Who, which I absolutely adored, and there was Tom Baker was my Doctor. I was on the back end of John Pertwee, the Third Doctor, and I enjoyed all his excuse me, all his romps. He was quite a cavalier type of Doctor, but Tom Baker was my Doctor. So things like I'm trying to collect a lot of the Tom Baker series. So this is something that the BBC had brought out. So it's Tom Baker years, 1974 to 81, and that was great. It kind of summing up what's different science fiction worlds and alien creatures and all that good stuff. The other big input that I had coming out at the same time as Star Wars. And I'm not saying Star Wars wasn't a major influence on me, and it was, But I think I just prefer, sometimes I just prefer more kind of the gritty, more kind of realistic based science fiction. And Space 1999 really fit the bill. Certainly in the first season. The second season, I wasn't really too enamored with. But the first season was dark. It was moody. It had dark themes. It's quite serious. Some of the guest stars were absolutely fantastic. You had Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, and I think who else we had. It was littered with individuals. You know, still that episode with the monster in the ghost ship. You know, that still kind of haunts me. You know, these are powerful images, and I like that aesthetic. So that 1970s sci-fi look, that's going to be a big part of this game. Well, hopefully I articulate it. The other one, if you're British, you know all about this. Blake Seven, fantastic, absolutely adored Blake Seven. The first couple of seasons with Blake before he got vaporized, well, he disappeared. This was really British drama at its best. It was quite low budget, but boy did it pack a punch when it came to entertainment. And it had characters. This guy Avon, he was fantastic. I adored Avon's character. He was, and this is Villa. He was the kind of like your lovable thief. And there's Blake. He was the hero, the leader of this band of rebels. But this was really this is what you talked about in the playground. It was Blake Seven. Have you seen the episode of Blake Seven last night? Yep, it was fantastic. And then on a more light-hearted side, we had Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and this was I think I've mentioned this before on the AT&T channel. This was quite pivotal. This was a very funny take on Douglas Adams' books are very amusing, very British kind of quirky humor. This series, the BBC one, is absolutely nails it, and I would recommend that. So hopefully you're going to have a wee bit of that kind of British humor in it. On the films, I should have got these DVDs a bit closer. The films that influenced me, probably the main ones, your classic 2001. I just love the aesthetic in this. Just the how so creepy. The different spaceships, and just just all that emptiness being out in the void. That's a classic. If you want cyberpunk and you want dystopian futures and all that kind of stuff, you can't beat Blade Runner. That kind of sums up. If I'm thinking of any kind of traveler world, it's going to have an element of Blade Runner in it. That Los Angeles 2019, with the rain coming down all the time, and all these different cultures meshed into one big boiling pot of intrigue, and all these fantastic characters with replicants. That's the kind of stuff that I want to bring out. It's bound to have something a bit Blade Runner-ish. Say no more. Alien. This really set the stamp on what the genre could be all about. This was real hardcore, serious sci-fi horror. The aesthetic is amazing, and I think a lot of Traveller is probably heavily rooted in that kind of aesthetic, where you had a very utilitarian future, very kind of grainy and grimy, and really quite brutal. And obviously with the alien, the xenomorph, we had xenomorphs appearing in our 1990s game, and we had a lot of fun with xenomorphs. And I could build up a lot of tension with the xenomorph and how it would suddenly jump out and do that kind of thing with its the thing that comes out of its mouth. No. So we're going to have a bit of Alien going on. One of my favourites, Outland. Again, this is a fantastic. This is basically High Noon in space, and Sean Connery does a fantastic job in being the lawman, the enforcer. Here's a bit of our Lord Seaward. If you watch the D&D campaign, this is what he kind of looks like. He really does the business in here, and my goodness, the aesthetic in this is fantastic. Very quite certain. You know, there are fan theories that say there's a bit of overlap between the two universes, but I sometimes think it's a bit of a stretch. But it's the same kind of very utilitarian, down to earth, gritty sci-fi, and that's kind of what I want to get in this game. 1970s dystopia, and you can't beat a bit of Charlton Heston. Planet of the Apes. Absolutely love this movie. Watched it again a couple of weeks ago. Still very fresh. You goddamn dirty apes type thing. You know some of the lines in it. You know, with the reveal at the end. You know, if you don't know about that now, I think you know it's past the point of spoilers. And then Soylent Green, another one. Charlton Heston. You know, imagine overpopulation gone absolutely up. You know, ramped up to 10. You know, a terrible vision of what a future is, and very much a kind of maybe you think of a traveller planet that's overpopulated and has all sorts of problems, urban problems. And the only one that I don't have, the Omega Man, which was the one about the post viral attack. It had all these kind of zombie type creatures running around. That's another Charlton Heston one. I don't actually have that one yet. It's on my Amazon wish list. If you think about you know, a big thing in Traveller is the I suppose kind of like a post-Holocaust a planet that had atomics on it. You know, the civilization has been knocked back to the Stone Age, or you know, it's pre-industrial. You know, this is a bit of a classic. My favourite in the Max series. Again, the aesthetic is what we're after. And then June, not only the book, but I like all of the David Lynch adaptation. All the things like the imperial side of it, the uniforms, just the look. You know, all the different noble houses. Very relevant to a Traveller type of game. So that's all the kind of influences, pop culture wise, that I want to try to bring into the game. And then I had my board games that I was playing at the same time. You know, Starship Troopers. This is an Avalon Hill game. We were playing away on this. You know, this is a very good adaptation of the book. Very faithful to the book. Game that I absolutely adored. Star Force Alpha Centauri. It had another game called Star Soldier, which was tactical man-to-man combat in the 25th century. And then its overall galactic version, which was called Outreach, where it posited a future human society in, I think there's 3000 AD. But this had some very novel mechanics, and we played a lot of that. So that I'm going to try and bring in some things from that. And then Battlefleet Mars, which is where this actual this board comes from. And anything to do with Mars I'm quite fascinated with. And this was again a very utilitarian kind of future, where it was really just down to miners rebelling on Mars and having a revolution against this overarching central power. And I think the overarching central power is a big thing that I like in my sci-fi. You know, an evil federation, an imperium that has overreach. I'm probably going to have in my game an imperium type power. Whether it's heavy-handed or not, it might be just you know, the Imperium in third Imperium doesn't appear to be you know, too heavy. It does allow a lot of local autonomy. I think I'm probably going to have the same kind of feel and dynamic in my game. So I think that's probably for the first episode. I think that's probably enough just to go through all those different aspects. And what I wanted to do was to give you the overview of what the campaign is going to, what direction it's going to be, what rules I'm going to be using, and also just what the kind of the cultural references I'll be trying to bring in, the type of aesthetic and feel. It's not going to be like your AI and all this kind of really modern digital type sci-fi. It's going to be almost like turn everything back to like 1970, 1980 technology. You know, we've got things like we've got cassettes that we put in the computer to change the program. It's going to be that level. It's not going to be all this dynamic, woo, you know, kind of, you know, there will be high tech there, and that'll be higher tech levels. But that is probably going to be done again, articulated in more as if I was like in the 1970s and 1980s trying to explain it, and not someone from 2025 who, with hindsight, knows a lot more about things like quantum gravity and physics, and we've got iPhones and all that type of stuff. This is all pre that. So I want to try and have that kind of almost like old school feel, an old school ethos in the game, and it's all going to be quite. It's not low tech. It's just going to be a bit more of a grounded kind of environment, and hopefully that will just bring out some nice little interesting ideas. So I'm quite looking forward to it. I hope you are too, and looking forward to you joining me in the next episode. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.